Why do their eyes change a split second before their voice tells you anything at all? You have probably watched someone answer normally while something smaller flashed across their face first. It happens in dates, meetings, apologies, compliments, and those strangely tense conversations nobody can explain. The words sound fine, yet your attention sticks to that tiny reaction before the sentence lands. You know that strange moment when nothing looks dramatic but something instantly feels slightly off. Maybe their eyes drop for half a beat, then return with a perfectly polished reply. Maybe they smile on cue, but their gaze turns distant, like part of them left early. Maybe they hold eye contact a little too hard after hearing something simple when harmless. Most people dismiss this as awkwardness, randomness, or your imagination working overtime for no reason. But your mind often catches inconsistency before language catches up and names what shifted there. That uneasy feeling is not always paranoia, and it is rarely about one dramatic sign. It is usually the mismatch between timing, expression, attention, and whatever the person is managing. Their eyes react first because eyes are fast, and self-control is usually slower than emotion. Before the polished answer arrives, attention, threat, relief, guilt, interest, or defensiveness already moved. That is why the real signal often appears in the pause before the performance begins. You notice it before words explain it because the brain reads patterns faster than stories. A delayed smile can mean they are adjusting, not agreeing, and that difference matters immediately. A quick glance away can suggest discomfort, not deception, and that difference matters just as much. The point is not to label people instantly, but to notice when emotion and language split. When those two things separate, your body often feels the gap before your mind explains it. Eye reactions happen inside the body is prioritizing something faster than social polish can keep hidden. Attention moves toward threat, attraction, shame, memory, status, and uncertainty before the mouth constructs safety. That is why the eyes sometimes reveal conflict even when the face looks otherwise controlled. You may have noticed this after asking an innocent question that somehow changes the room. The strange part is rarely the words, because the deeper reaction usually happens earlier and quieter. Someone says they are fine, but their focus briefly narrows like they just braced internally. Someone laughs at your comment, yet their eyes stop moving for a second too long. That stillness matters because it often marks a moment of internal calculation rather than ease. When people feel emotionally exposed, they often try to stabilize the face while the eyes leak. When they feel intrigued but cautious, the gaze may return quickly, then retreat before commitment shows. When they feel guilty, they may answer smoothly while attention briefly checks your reaction first. When they feel attracted and unsettled at once, eye contact can become too precise or delayed. The eye shift is not magic, and it is not a lie detector either at all. It is simply one of the fastest places emotional conflict shows before a person edits themselves. And once you notice that sequence, you stop judging only words and start reading timing too. Imagine you compliment someone warmly and they smile back, yet avoid eye contact immediately afterward. Most people assume they are shy, awkward, or just bad at taking praise gracefully there. Sometimes that is true, but sometimes the avoidance means the compliment touched something more loaded. Maybe they wanted your approval more than they admit, and your words hit harder than expected. Maybe they feel undeserving, and the praise creates tension between the image they show you. Maybe the compliment exposed a feeling they were trying to keep invisible and manageable inside. So the eyes drop not because nothing happened, but because too much happened too quickly. You have probably felt this before when someone thanked you, yet looked almost startled doing it. The warm words were real, but the first eye reaction showed the emotion arrived before control. That is why delayed acceptance can feel intimate, because you are watching the unedited part surface. Now consider the opposite moment when someone smiles politely, but their eyes suddenly go far away. You may have seen this during a reunion, a date, or after mentioning a shared memory. People usually assume boredom or rudeness because the smile stayed, but the connection disappeared briefly. But distant eyes often signal internal travel, not indifference because something pulled them somewhere else. A memory surfaced, an insecurity activated, or a comparison started running behind the smile itself. The face stayed social while attention left the room, and that is exactly why you felt it. Your brain noticed presence and absence happening together, and that contradiction creates instant unease inside. They may still like you and still enjoy the moment while also managing something unspoken there. That is the trap of surface reading, because a smile can hide overload just as easily. The key is the eyes leaving before the conversation does, because that timing reveals the split. Now picture someone hearing a simple comment and holding eye contact just a second too long. It could happen after you tease them lightly, set a boundary, or mention another person's name. Most people read that stare as confidence, dominance, or maybe aggression if the room feels tense. Sometimes it is dominance, but sometimes it is a freeze before a controlled response gets chosen. When people feel challenged, exposed, or unexpectedly judged, they can lock attention outward while regulating inward. That long look buys them time, even if the pause lasts less than a heartbeat longer. You can sense something shift because the reaction comes before their explanation starts protecting them. Then the answer arrives calm, measured, maybe even charming, but the first look already changed meaning. This happens in arguments, flirtation, interviews, family dinners, and workplace conversations people call completely normal. But the normal-looking moments are often where the deepest emotional editing is happening fastest underneath. That is why you remember the look longer than the sentence, because the look carried truth first. None of this means one eye movement exposes a secret with perfect certainty every time. It means early reactions can reveal friction between what someone feels and what they decide to show. And friction is often what you are sensing when a conversation feels odd without obvious reason. You notice the mismatch before you can name it, because your attention is built for patterns. The eyes shift, the face adjusts, the voice catches up, and the story comes last in sequence. That order matters because the first reaction is usually the least rehearsed part of the moment. It is not raw truth exactly, but it is often the fastest draft of it. And fast drafts are where conflict, attraction, resentment, fear, and longing often leave tiny fingerprints first. So when something feels strange, do not obsess over words alone and ignore the sequence. One reason this matters so much is that trust rarely breaks on words alone anyway. Trust weakens when your mind keeps catching little mismatches it cannot explain but cannot ignore. You may like someone and still feel careful around them because their timing keeps disagreeing subtly. You may work with someone competent yet feel tension because their eyes sharpen before every disagreement. You may date someone charming yet feel confused because their reactions arrive half a beat late. That delay can matter more than the compliment itself, because hesitation often reveals internal resistance first. Attraction often contains fear, and conflict often contains attachment, which is why these moments feel layered. The eyes reveal mixed emotion better than polished language, because mixed emotion happens faster than wording. And mixed emotion is what everyday life is full of, especially when stakes feel personal. In friendships, these signals can show resentment masked as support or concern masked as curiosity. In dating, they can show attraction mixed with self-protection or interest mixed with uncertainty and caution. At work, they can show status anxiety disguised as professionalism or disagreement disguised as cooperation. In family conversations, they can show old wounds appearing before the polite tone has time to return. Once you start seeing this, you realize many awkward moments are actually emotional timing problems. Not because people are fake all the time, but because humans often feel multiple things simultaneously. We want connection and protection, honesty and image, closeness and distance, all in the same conversation. The eyes respond to that conflict before the social version of us finishes choosing words. That is why what unsettles you usually appears before explanation, because language enters after emotion moves. And once you understand that, you become less paranoid and more accurate at reading people. You stop treating every glance like evidence and start noticing patterns across moments, tone, and timing. Here is what to watch for next time when something feels off without clear reason. Notice whether the eyes move before the face changes, because timing often tells the deeper story. Notice whether the response arrives instantly or after a tiny delay that should not be there. Notice whether the person becomes oddly still, because sudden stillness can mean internal management just started. Notice whether the words sound warm while the gaze withdraws, because emotional distance often shows there. Notice whether eye contact becomes too precise after a sensitive comment, because control can look intense. Notice whether the reaction repeats around one topic, because repetition matters far more than isolated moments. Maybe they always shift when money comes up, or when commitment appears, or one name surfaces. That repeated pattern tells you the topic carries emotional weight even if their words stay tidy. You do not need expert training to catch this, because ordinary attention already notices half of it. You just need to trust the moment enough to observe it instead of dismissing it immediately. The goal is not suspicion, because suspicion distorts everything and turns normal nerves into false alarms. The goal is clear perception, so you can separate harmless awkwardness from repeated emotional mismatch patterns. That makes you better at conversations, boundaries, dating, teamwork, and noticing when someone's words are compensating. It also makes you kinder, because many strange reactions are not manipulation, but inner conflict leaking. Still, one glance proves almost nothing, and one weird pause definitely does not define a person. Context matters more than any isolated signal, because tiredness, stress, culture, personality, and anxiety shape behavior. Some people avoid eye contact when they care deeply, and some hold it when they feel nervous. Some people delay responses because they think carefully, and some smile automatically when feeling uncomfortable inside. That is why patterns beat moments, and clusters beat single signals every time you are reading someone. If the eyes shift once, forget it. But if the mismatch repeats around the same trigger, watch. If the face says relaxed while the timing says bracing, and that repeats, context starts speaking clearly. Repeated mismatch matters because it suggests the person is managing something their words keep stepping around. That something could be insecurity, attraction, resentment, fear, shame, or simple uncertainty, not one neat answer. So stay curious without becoming certain, because the smartest reading of people leaves room for nuance. The real lesson is that subtle reactions matter, because words are often the last thing assembled. By the time someone explains themselves, their mind has already filtered emotion into something socially acceptable. The eyes are where that editing sometimes misses a frame, and you catch it. That missing frame is often what you felt in those moments you could never fully explain. Not proof of hidden secrets every time, but proof that your perception noticed emotional mismatch early. And when you respect both pattern and context, you become sharper without becoming cynical about people. If this gave language to a reaction you have noticed before, stay with Novi mind. Share the strangest eye reaction you have seen in real life, because those moments teach plenty. Subscribe if you want clearer ways to read what people feel before they explain themselves. And in the next one, we uncover why some smiles feel warm while your instincts disagree.